summer day has come and gone away in Paris and Rome, but I wanna go home. Yeah. Maybe surrounded by a million people, I still feel all alone. I wanna go home. I miss you, you know. And I've been keeping all the letters that I wrote to you, each one a line or two. I'm fine, babe, how are you? I would send them, but I know that it's just not enough. My words were cold and flat, and you deserve more than that. Another airplane, another sunny place. I'm lucky, I know, but I wanna go home. I've got to go home. Let me go home. I'm just too far from where you are. I wanna come home. Just like I'm living someone else's life. It's like I just stepped outside when everything was going right. And I know just why you could not come along with me. This was just not your dream, but you always believed in me. Another winter day has come and gone away in even Paris and Rome, and I wanna go home. Let me go home. I'm surrounded by a million people. I still feel all alone, and I wanna go home. I miss you, you know. Let me go home. I've had my run, baby, I'm done. I wanna come home. Let me go home. It'll all be alright. I'll be home tonight. I'm coming back home. Hey.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jubilee. Good morning, Jubilee. Good morning, sound system. We're all waking up. Well, while this, oh, there we are. Thank you so much, Paula and the World Beat Band. It is such a pleasure. I've worked in a wide variety of congregations, and let me tell you, having musicians who can not only perform beautifully, but go with the flow like this group does is such a gift. So. Well, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the first Sunday in November, which means it's the first Sunday in Native American Heritage Month. And another thing that I feel grateful for here at Jubilee is that as we celebrate each week on the land that has belonged to the Cherokee for hundreds of years, Yona gifts us with the spirit of blessing this space in this land as we begin together every week. So thank you, Yona. So, did some of you get an extra hour of sleep last night? You have you? Or so maybe some of you had an extra hour of waking time to get some things done? Yeah, yeah. All right, well, congrats on being here and on time, or the right time. So we're continuing today in the Via Negativa, the path of releasing. And today we are releasing home, which seems appropriate in the town that inspired Thomas Wolfe to write, "You can't go home again." But is that true? Don't we all long to go home again? Maybe to a home we've never had, but only sensed. A home of our heart, a home for our soul, a soft landing place for all our longings. So today we are still in the season of Samhain, the Celtic time of year that starts on what we now call Halloween or All Hallows Eve. And this is the thinnest time of the year. That is, this is the time when the veil between this world of matter and the world of spirit opens, and we can more easily travel back and forth. It's a time of remembering and a time of dreaming. It's a time of honoring the ancestors and praying for the dead and asking that they pray for us. So into this season, this week, comes a full moon with a total lunar eclipse on Election Day. Make of that what you will. It may be one of those weeks when some of us in the U.S. are wondering about other countries we may be able to call home. Or it may be a week when the ancestors reach through the veil and offer us their help, with all those who fought for the right to vote lending their energies to our efforts. What homes have you left behind? What home are you seeking? Does your heart know where home is? What does it mean to be home? Could it be that, like Dorothy, we have to leave home to find it? Well, let's click our heels together 3 times and chant, "There's no place like home, there's no place like home, there's no place like home." So let's sing in our home this morning.
Swing while the doors untied is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine.
Thank you, World Beat Band, and good morning, Jubilee. How many times have you wanted to go home, but we're waiting for those doors to open for you? Instead of doing something to open the doors ourselves. I've did it. Done it. Been there, done that. Wrote a story about it. In this moment, just want to thank you, Laura, for acknowledging all of those that came before. And in this moment, to ask my ancestors to continue to share with me the love and compassion and honor and respect of all life as we move forward. In these times where we're reminded of so much, in this time of the full moon and the eclipse and elections where don't even know what they're talking about anymore. All of them. That's the prayer for me, is to call for my ancestors to help me in these moments. So if you will, please, face to the east. Oh, ancestors of the east, we thank you when we honor you this day. Thank you for the beautiful warmth and the rays of sunshine that reach down deep into our hearts and our souls. Help us to receive that warmth to calm us in any moment and as we breathe in the life and the hope and the visions of the ancestors that have come. While that thin veil of life between life and death is so thin that we can touch and feel and smell the essence of all that has come and all that is to come. We thank you, ancestors of the East, for your gentleness and your kindness and your compassion. Thank you. Oh. Face to the south, please. Oh, ancestors of the south. To all of those whose names that we know and all of those that we can only imagine, thank you for your greatness and all that you offer us in this time. Thank you for walking on that thin line of life and death, of understanding and the great mystery. We ask you to continue to be fluid and to flow in our hearts and our spirits with knowledge and love and compassion, so that our tears might flow with the joy of understanding the voices of the past and realizing that we're moving into the future in a good way. Thank you, Water Nation, for growing that seed for us. In a good way, we honor you and love you. Oh. Face to west, please. Oh, ancestors of the West, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all that we hear in the wind and feel in the sun. Thirst-quenching taste of water and life. The ability to fly and go beyond every time the wind blows and gives us breath as we give back in sacred reciprocity. Thank you, ancestors, for singing your songs to the wind. Thank you for crying your tears into the earth so it might grow the seeds of hope. Thank you for all that you have done for us. And we ask you to continue to walk with us in this way, in a good way. I hope. Face to north, please. Oh, ancestors of the north, we thank you. We thank you for your medicine, and we thank you for the wind that reminds us of all life. Sometimes our heart only knows silence to honor the depth that we give of appreciation for each and every breath that we take. Each and every opportunity we are giving to lift our vibration higher so that we might create the visions and dreams of those that have come. So that we might create that path clearly for the generations that are to follow us. In a good way, Wind Nation, we ask you to continue to help us flow on our journey in a good way. I hope. Face to center, please. to all the ancestors of the land as we know as earth, and to all the ancestors that we know that support all life in the universe and the star nations. We see you. We open our hearts and our souls to shine so that you can see us too. In a good way. We join with you and we breathe together and look clearly into the clear sky in the night and join you in a good way.
As we sing our first song together, let's remember that there are baskets on the table where any money collected during this song in those baskets goes to help our neighbors, to feed the hungry. Let's sing.
Here we go. You know this one. Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Okay, is this on? Okay, good. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Susie Davis. It's time for Jubilee in Action. Good morning. So fine of you to join me here today. So, I know that a lot of you have already voted, haven't you? Yes, well, Tuesday, as we all know, is Election Day, if you haven't gotten around to that yet. Ron Katz has so graciously provided us with some non-partisan voter guides, which are out in the lobby. So please pick one up if you need it. There's also some comprehensive information on the website, jubileecommunity.org, if you need to refer to that as well. On Tuesday, November 8th, Laura Collins has an announcement.
What better to do on Election Day than pray? I'm going to be praying real hard all day, and I would love for you to join me from 3 to 4:30 that afternoon as we begin a 4-part series called Praying the Vias, and we will be praying the Via Positiva this month. Then in December, January, and February, we'll do the other 3 Vias. So from 3 to 4:30 here on Tuesday, we'll be praying through the Via Positiva, and you don't have to sign up ahead of time. You can come to the door. However, there will be handouts, and it would be very helpful to me if you're planning to come to go ahead and sign up so I know how many handouts I need. Thanks.
You're so practical. Let's see. Oh, on Monday, November 28th at 7 p.m., astronomer Stephen Martin will be doing a Zoom presentation on the amazing images captured by the James Webb Space Telescope, while also reflecting on the creation spirituality principles of the sacred cosmos and our place in it. Please register in advance to get the link to the Zoom presentation. So there are still a few opportunities to share gifts during the upcoming VIA. So if you have a gift that you'd like to share, check the website for the Seeds for Celebration. And if you have something that goes along with the theme, please get in touch with Laura. She's your point person on that. And please don't forget to stop by the hospitality room after the celebration. We've got coffee and some munchies, and we try to do this every Sunday. So if you think of it, bring a can of nuts or a bag of cookies or whatever to put on the table, and stay and enjoy meeting and greeting your fellow jubilants. Oh, Bruce, did you have an announcement about? You didn't. Okay. Okay, well, that's it. Jubilee in action. Short, sweet, and straight to the point.
Good morning, Jubilee. Good morning. Yona. On the way here, I was trying to decide what I'm going to do and how I'm going to present. I thought about having everybody close their eyes and just walking around the room. And as I began to wonder about these things, I wondered about how my ancestors that walked on the Trail of Tears would tell their story. If they knew that they were about to go before a crowd of people and tell the story before it ever happened, and what would they say? I think of my ancestors here in these mountains, that knowing that this was the only home that they ever had and that they ever knew, in our understanding that we were given to this land, we were given to these mountains, and that we had always agreed with the Creator to always love, respect, and honor this land and be in service. And as I imagine being here this morning and how to present a story and what to say and what not to say and be politically correct and be nice and just be me. And sometimes being me can be a challenge, because sometimes coming home means that I find some things out about myself that I didn't know. Things that I've grown into, and understandings and behaviors, thought patterns. And as I imagine walking around this room, I began to wonder what it would be like to have that time that my ancestors walked on that road, not knowing where they were going or what was waiting for them on the other side. And I gave gratitude for having a place to go this morning. And I gave gratitude for having a plan of what to do whenever this ends here at around 11 or 12 o'clock. On my way here, I imagine walking around this room asking you to close your eyes and breathe with me for a moment. And as I began to run the words of Native American History Month through my head and what it meant to me, I began to understand that the offer to come home and swinging wide the open doors is open to all of us. Because that somewhere along the way in all of our histories, all of our people have walked a trail of tears. It's only because we're on this continent, on this North American continent, that I believe that my people's story, the Trail of Tears, is so prevalent. But I'd like to remember people to go back even further. Before there was an America. Before there was continents. When we stood back and we looked and all we saw was the mother. So on my way here, as I imagine what it would be like to walk around this room with your eyes closed and breathing with me, I realize that perhaps in this waking time, we really do have our eyes closed. And as we're breathing, we're living the dream that we're imagining. I'm fond of using the Wizard of Oz analogy too, because I used to hide in my bedroom closet on Sunday night so I could watch the Wonderful World of Disney and not go to church. Especially if the Wizard of Oz was on. And I always imagine what it would be like to click my moccasins together 3 times and invite my people home. Waiting for that hot air balloon to appear out of nowhere. But instead of one, having one for each of them to come home, to rise above the journey that they took there, to return with a higher vision, and to honor what it truly means to come home, to release all of that, what we thought we knew, to re-educate our minds, the definitions of what we call home. And I believe it's in those moments when we do click our heels together in those 3 moments that we come to the actual closest reality in our existence on this earth to truly be in there. So continue to dream and continue to hope. And continue to swing wide the doors open and invite them home. Regardless of who they are, it is a story, a person, a piece of history. Invite them in and welcome them home in a good way. I hope.
As we enter into a time of prayer, or maybe I should say continue in a time of prayer in a new way, I invite you to receive communion. All of the bread today is gluten-free. There is wine and there is juice. During COVID, we're receiving the communion ourselves. There's a toothpick. Pick up the bread and dip it into the cup. But we have friends there holding the space with you and for you as you pray. You might light a candle. You might write a prayer request and put it on our prayer wall. You might sing and ring a bell or bowl. You might open your eyes and look up at the prayer flags that we've created here. Look up at our Mother Earth. Look at the beauty of this arrangement. Look at the beauty of the faces around you. Or close your eyes and breathe. Whatever calls you into your body, into this moment, into a place where you open yourself to the movement of the Spirit, that is what this time is for. Ah, Tebby. Be still and know that I am love. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Breathe deeply. We're going to sing our peace song now, and after we sing it through once, I invite you to stand and share the peace in whatever way you're comfortable this morning, and then we'll sing again as we come back together in circle.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for love. Oh, no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for love.
Peace to you.
Oh, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for love. No, no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for love. Hey, yes, I'm only here for love. Oh, yes, I'm only here for love.
Okay, friendly people, sit down. Listen now for these ancient words. From the 3rd chapter of the book of Lamentations, we read, "The thought of my affliction and my homelessness is wormwood and gall. My soul continually thinks of it and is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the holy never ceases. God's mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The beloved is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in God. The Holy One is good to those who wait, to the soul that seeks God. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the beloved." And a poem by Irish poet David White called "The Journey." Above the mountains, the geese turn into the light again, painting their black silhouettes on the sky. Sometimes everything has to be inscribed across the heavens so you can find that one line already written inside you. Sometimes everything has to be inscribed across the heavens so you can find the one line already written inside you. Sometimes it takes a great sky to find that first bright and indescribable wedge of freedom in your heart. Sometimes, with the bones of the black sticks left when the fire has gone out, someone has written something new in the ashes of your life. Sometimes, with the bones of the black sticks left when the fire has gone out, someone has written something new in the ashes of your life. You are not leaving. Even as the light fades quickly now, you are arriving. This is ancient wisdom and holy word. All creation is wisdom and holy word.
All creation sings wisdom now.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So when I was 14, my father, a Presbyterian minister, was granted his one and only sabbatical of his 40-year career. I had only lived in rural Missouri at that point in my life, and I had traveled to two places, Colorado a couple of times with my family to camp, and North Carolina, where we would visit my father's parents here in Asheville and then go across the state to the eastern part of the state where my mother's family lived. But with the sabbatical, we got a whole summer to travel to exotic places like Boston, and then Rome and Amsterdam and London. But most of the time we spent in Scotland. When we arrived by train to Scotland, I remember getting out and putting my feet on the ground and having a feeling wash over me. It was a kind of shimmering feeling. And if the feeling had words, they were something like, "Welcome home." Now, as a very average, very waspy, middle American young teen, I had no language for that experience. I didn't have a container to put it in or a frame of reference to help me understand it, so it just sort of stayed in the back of my mind until years later, when I began to grasp the reality of ancestral connections and the power of spiritual roots. 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of spending 3 days with John Philip Newell, a Celtic scholar and author of many books, including his latest called Sacred Earth, Sacred Soul. The event was held at Montreat, a place where I spent summers of my youth attending conferences and learning to hike. Those were the first mountains I fell in love with. So between the subject matter and the sense of place, I once again had that shimmering feeling all through my body. Welcome home, Laura. For those of you who don't know, Celtic spirituality, like the creation spirituality that we celebrate here, is based in a love of the sacred earth and a recognition of the sacredness of all life. Original blessing is Matt Fox's term. The early Celtic Christians called it original grace. When Christianity first came to Ireland and Scotland, it was not the empirical form of religion that had captured Roman Christianity. So a bit of background for some of you who don't know, a little church history. So the concept of original sin came from Augustine in the 4th century. He based it on his interpretation of Paul's letters in the New Testament. Jesus never said anything about original sin. And really, neither did Paul, but that requires a little more unpacking that we're not going to take on today. Augustine was very cozy with the bishops of his time, who were in turn very cozy with the emperor. And so there was this weird thing happening. The Jesus movement, which up until this time had been very diverse and had been either ignored as some fringe sect or been actively persecuted, suddenly became the state religion. And for the state or empire, focusing on the idea that Augustine offered, which said people were dreadfully sinful and in desperate need of saving, was very convenient. It was disempowering. And so the state, through the church, could position itself as the only place to get the salvation needed. You see what's happening here? Yeah, okay. So this state-church enmeshment found all the alternative understandings of Jesus, those not based in sin and salvation, threatening. So the Gospels of Mary and Philip and Thomas, for example, were condemned as heretical and actively suppressed. And similarly, theologians who focused on the sacredness of all life, or the Christ within, or the wisdom of the earth, or the divine and feminine aspects of God, all of those existed, by the way. That's not new stuff. That goes way back. All of these got pushed aside, and not just ignored, but violently repressed. Okay, so meanwhile, up in Ireland and Scotland, there were folks who had come into contact with Christianity before empire took it over. And because they were far enough away from Rome, they didn't get the memo. Now, the Roman Empire had made its way to the British Isles even before the time of Christ, during the period of Julius Caesar. And in fact, the Roman Empire conquered the portion of the British Isles now known as England, right around the same time that the New Testament books were being written. Rome had a harder time with Scotland and Ireland. You can read about Hadrian's Wall if you want more info on that. So the influence of the Roman Empire made its way toward Scotland and Ireland, but never fully took hold. And likewise, the Christianity that later got enmeshed with that empire was not exactly the kind of Christianity that was being practiced in the Isles until centuries later. So, many Celtic scholars notice what Newell calls the radical continuity between indigenous Celtic beliefs and Christ. Okay, so that is, when they heard about Jesus, they accepted his wisdom as being in line with their own worldview. Now, several centuries later, that did change, but here we're talking about the very early centuries, around 200 to 600 CE. So for the Celts, that meant continuity with the Druidic wisdom of their land. There isn't a great deal of scholarly agreement on who the Druids actually were or what they believed, but we can discern. They had shamanic-like priests and priestesses, male and female, and they valued the earth and her creatures as sacred, and they believed in the divine soul running through all of it. Also, they liked trees, especially oak trees. Okay, so that's a lot of history, both personal and global. So let's pause and ask the important question, so what? So what? So for me personally, the so what has to do with my own sense of being at home in Celtic lands and with their spirituality, and especially with the continuity of a spirituality that is centered in the soulfulness of earth and thus embraced Christian wisdom tradition with that understanding. Early Celtic Christians saw the Christ figure as being in line with the Druids, and St. Columba, in fact, said, "Jesus is my Druid." That's a statement I could get behind. Whatever your own spiritual roots are, if you feel attuned with this community, I imagine that you find a sense of spiritual home in seeing the sacred life of trees and birds, of mountains and rivers, that you feel at home with believing that you are, at your core, a sacred creature. That whatever has not worked in your life, whatever mistakes you've made, even whatever harm you've done, that is not the deepest truth about you. The deepest truth is that you are made in the image of God. And even more, that you are an image of God. And that God's image and wisdom is reflected back to you through other souls, human souls, and souls alive in an enchanted world. In an enchanted world. Home. Now, in Christianity, there is also this long tradition of talking about home as somewhere other than this world. Gospel songs speak of this world not being our home, of being homesick, of going home one day by and by. There's a strong idea that heaven is out there waiting for us, and that any feeling we have of not being at home here is proof that we're meant to be somewhere else. Christian writer C.S. Lewis stated this belief clearly, saying, if we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that we were made for another world. The most probable explanation is that we were made for another world. What confuses me about this is that the same people who say this are the ones who say, or who love to quote John 3:16, for God so loved the world, this world. If God so loved this world, why would God make us for a different one and be so eager to get us out of this one and into that one? What if the most probable explanation is not that we were made for another world, but that we have fallen asleep to the enchantment of this one? We do, as Lewis says, find ourselves with desires that we intuit can't be satisfied in all the ways we try so hard to satisfy them. We try not only to fill those desires with material things and money and food and sex, but also more noble pursuits like meaningful work and loving relationships. And still, we know that somehow the itch has not quite been scratched. So Lewis is not wrong to say that there are desires we experience that we intuit can't be filled in all the myriad ways we try to fill them, but maybe he's wrong about the most probable explanation for that intuition. What if filling those desires requires us not to leave this world, but to fall in love with it more deeply? Mathematician Blaise Pascal named those deep, seemingly unfillable holes in our soul as God-shaped vacuums. I think he was correct. There is built within us a space that only God can fill. But what if God fills that space not by whisking us away from this world, but by calling us to find the holy in it? What if we sometimes don't feel at home in this world because we've forgotten that God is all around us in it? Every leaf and every twig, every bird and every mammal, in the mycelia beneath our feet, in the clouds above the mountains. What if the rivers are alive and sing to us daily of the beauty that we need for salvation, but we've forgotten how to listen? We're in November. Native American Heritage Month, and I think over the last several decades that white Americans have become so fascinated with Native rituals and religions because we sense that Native peoples held on to something that most white folks lost. And then, of course, we do what white people are so good at. We steal it. We accumulate it like a prize that we deserve. Maybe this is why I long to return to my own indigenous past, a time before empire acquired and distorted the way of Jesus, a time before Jesus when my people looked for wood sprites and water spirits, concepts that got trivialized into little green leprechauns and other silliness. I imagine if we go far enough back into any of our lineages, we'll find something like this. And even if you can't directly trace your own past to a particular path, we can sense in our being, in our bodies, that the possibility of a world alive with the energy of spirit is the world we long for. A world that is full of loving, friendly reminders. A world that feels like home.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known, for wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue home.
Richard Rohr writes in his book, The Universal Christ, once we know that the entire physical world around us, all of creation, is both the hiding place and the revelation place for God, this world becomes home, safe, enchanted, offering grace to anyone who looks deeply. When we understand that God is hidden in plain sight all around us, the world becomes home, safe, enchanted, graced. And the world becomes more than home. It becomes our relative. It becomes our ancestor. Dr. Keola Fox, a Kanaka Maoli anthropologist and genomic researcher, tells us that the land itself and the conditions of that land, like altitude and climate, impact our genome, just as our human ancestors do. So when Dr. Fox says the land and the waters, the oceans and the rivers are part of us, relatives and ancestors in a very real way, that's a scientific statement about our genetic makeup. Safe, enchanted, our ancestor. Quite literally, our mother. If the land itself is our relative, then how do we live? This is about more than getting in touch with fairies frolicking in the moss, though if that's your jam, go for it. This is about the choices we make, the care we take or don't take of our earth family. So today is the first day of the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP27 for short. For 27 years, the nations of the world have been gathering to discuss how we collaborate on issues of climate change. Today they gather in Egypt. We can predict that the G20 nations, that is the top 20 world economies will once again balk at the concept of paying their fair share of the climate cleanup. The G20 create 80% of the world's greenhouse emissions. Let me say that again. The top 20 world economies emit 80% of the world's greenhouse gases. And every year, the poorer countries, the developing world as we like to call it, say to the G20, "You have poisoned the well we all drink from. You must clean it up. We cannot afford to clean up your messes. And your messes impact us more than they impact you. So come on and clean up your mess." If we knew this world to be our home, this one, not another one yet to come, not someday, not by and by, but this one, now, how would we treat it? If we knew this land to be our relative, a part of our own genetic makeup, our family, how would we love her?
Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue world.
J. Newell writes, "We know things in the core of our being that we have not necessarily been taught. And some of this deep knowing may actually be at odds with what our society or religion has tried to teach us. We are reawakening to what we know in the depths of our being, that the earth is sacred and that this sacredness is at the heart of every human being and every life form. To awaken again to this deep knowing is to be transformed in the ways we choose to live and relate and act. To awaken is to be transformed. To wake up is to be transformed. Some days I despair of us waking up in time. Many days I doubt we can transform quickly enough. And it's hard to know how people like those of us in this room compete with the Elon Musks of the world. And yet, what if this whole thing turns on just enough of us tuning in to the messages the earth is sending? Some of them don't require fine-tuning. Wildfires and floods and droughts and melting ice caps and ruptured pipelines. The earth is screaming at us, wake up! But some of the messages are more subtle. The ways we are learning how the mycelium communicate, how the trees send messages across the air, how healing herbs can sing to those who have learned to listen, how animals can teach us how to calm down our own nervous systems. I believe that Earth is trying to speak more urgently to more of us. I believe she is calling us to pray with her, not just for her. I believe that we live on an enchanted planet in a friendly universe. I believe that we are, in fact, home, right here, right now. What if the spirits of earth are speaking to us more often now because they are trying to tell us the secret of how to be saved? What if God is hidden in plain sight all around us, longing to save us right here, right now?
Sing along, everybody.
I give thanks to the waves upholding, hail the great wings urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel to, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you all, and thank you always, musicians. So now we will send around our bowls to collect our offering for this community. And as we do so, we get blessed with more music.
I give thanks to the waves upholding, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
So go out into your world this week, listening for the songs of the rivers, listening for the songs of the birds, listening for the messages of earth, knowing, trusting, believing that this world, this beautiful blue boat home, is in fact enchanted and longing to send you her beautiful salvation. Oh yeah, let's sing ourselves out.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We're going there. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It may be hard, we know, and the road may be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Hold on to me as we go. As we roll down this unfamiliar road. Although this wave is stringing us along. Just know you're not